Graffiti is a way of life for a lot of us. It's the route that we chose and we picked in order to get out of a situation where we were going to really spiral down to nowhere. The graffiti scene to us, to me especially, is an alternative way of living where we were living. For instance, you didn't deal with gangs anymore. You dealt with crews, and you didn't have to fight. You put everything on the wall, and your peers, would tell you which one's better. And it always kept you that hunger to keep on going and painting more, bigger and better pieces. So it made you forget about the rest of the stuff, the negative part. All the positive part of you, all that energy that you had, you put it up on the wall and everybody appreciated it. And that's what we were looking for, appreciation. But we never get appreciation from gangs or violence. And vandalism, well, I mean, that's just part of what we started doing. But in reality, graffiti to me is more of an outlet of your expressions, whether it's with spray paint, with a brush, or with weed paste. It's just something that you just want to get it out of your mind and put it up on the wall so everybody can see it.
Like I said, I'm not one to I don't really give a shit about my name. Like, I don't care about, yeah, this is me, this is who I am, sec, this is my corner, this is my spot, this is my street, whatever. I didn't give a shit about that. The entire time for me, since I was younger, since I can remember, it was just that message, that giving something meaning, because I felt like that was just what I lacked, and what I was trying to find was just meaning in the shit that was going on around me as a kid. There was so much shit that would go on, fights and getting into a lot of trouble, stealing shit, my friends stealing shit, and I was just there. I had a lot of friends overdose, and it was just crazy. It was just, I was just trying to make sense of things, and then also at the same time vent. And then I was hoping I could just make somebody relate to what I was going through, which I knew people did, or at least I was kind of aware of it. I just didn't know how many people would relate, I didn't really take into consideration or reach out to a lot of people.
Graffiti art allows me to, when we're physically in front of a wall, allows me to detach myself from all those things that run through my mind. I've been, just gotta learn to be content in every situation. I've been homeless, dude. I've been homeless twice. I slept on dirt, dude. Just. So for me, graffiti are those struggles. I paint for myself. I paint to be able to maintain my vice. I paint to eat. I paint to do laundry. I paint to live here.
Doing graffiti is kind of an escape. Usually I do the most graffiti when I'm depressed and I need to get out of the house and, get the fuck out of there. And it doesn't matter, at that point, if anyone who's ever dealt with depression, they know that it's just kind of fuck it, I'm gonna go do this, and if I end up going to jail for it, whatever. I'm gonna go have a good time. I'm always thinking about it. I'm always doing it. I'm always doing whatever. But it's not like I'm out every night painting. But it's always an aspect. But for people like me, art in general is really the main focus. Whether it's doing graffiti, doing canvases, doing graphic design, whatever, drawing people's names, whatever. It's something that I think about and I do every single day.
We want to let the world know we were here. We don't want to slip out in the night quietly. We wanna be screaming and throwing a fight, and that's what it comes down to. It's like, how are you gonna engage your life? Are you gonna engage it head on? It's the funny thing about graph artists too is a lot of them are very very conscious and just cool people. They're not violent for the most part. That's perhaps something that culture overall has had to. It's like an umbrella that they've had to uphold to protect themselves, because we subject ourselves to violence, and other criminal activities. So
a book called Subway Art, which many consider it the Bible of graffiti art. So you read through it, so a lot of people picked up those terms, and each coast, like East Coast doesn't speak like us, and West Coast doesn't speak like them, but we all have that common term, peace. Let's go piecing, or let's go bombing. New York vocabulary has like a bunch of words, and they all mean a certain thing. But out here in Los Angeles, for us, like, we wouldn't call it 3D, we would call it coins. And we call it coins because you take a quarter and you tilt it sideways, and you got those lines coming down. That's why we called it coins, because we were creating a three-dimensional image of a letter. So we were turning, basically, instead of turning a quarter, we were turning an A over, or whatever letter, and then we would see those coins. But at the bottom line, there's like just one standard vocabulary for graffiti art.
So I remember seeing that book and taking bits and pieces of it, like from letters to like styles to color palettes to just even the way people were like standing in the picture, like I would take things.
Almost every graph writer has been influenced by subway art, because that's really where traditional graffiti came from, as far as the lettering, the letter structure, the colors, the technique, and all that. That was one of the most prominent moments of graffiti, which influenced so many artists, almost everybody. Unless you have some crazy radical idea, something came from that, from New York subway art.
There was a store, an art store in MacArthur Park called H.E. Daniels, and it was right next to the Otis Parsons School of Art. We used to go in there and sometimes get those little black books and just literally put them in our pants and just go outside, and that's where we would sketch things out. Or if you see somebody else, you get their tag on there.
The way I had it, I had a black book to practice, and I had a black book to pass around. And I learned about the black book passing around later when my friend had bought in a black book and brought it to school and was like, yo, he's like, I want you to piece on this. He's like, and then after that, give it to so-and-so and let him piece on it. And then, and I was like, all right, whatever. And so that's how it kind of got started. But it was like internally, it was like in school, we had like all the writers kind of like pass this around, and we'd write in it. And then, like you get to know other writers from other schools. So you would like send that into another school. Like I was going to Lincoln, we would send it to Wilson, or we would send it to like Beverly or high school or whatever. And only because we had friends in those schools, like some of our friends got into real shit at school that they got expelled and they had to send their asses to another school. So they would link up with a bunch of writers from that school, and they'd come like to visit us, and they'd be like, yo, dude, I met so-and-so, like this is their black book, hit it up.
It's a way to not only increase your skills, but also share it to other people and share memories. I've had black books passed around to me from all over the world, from Germany, New York, Arizona, New Mexico, the res, everywhere. Every time you do a piece in a black book, you can sit there and remember where you're at and what you're doing, how you felt, all this stuff. And people you forgot about, people who will maybe die or whatever. That black book is a way to preserve, that kind of, that social contacts that you have with all your friends. And it's something that, you can keep your entire life if you take care of it.
I just speak from an Angelino experience because during the 80s and 90s, we were the gang capital of Los Angeles, so a lot of us have been brought up with that philosophy that you're not gonna step on my toes kind of thing, and it's just like, you're not gonna disrespect me, you're not gonna talk down to me, especially in front of the friends or the homies, or especially in front of some chick I'm trying to talk to. Los Angeles is a gang culture, and unfortunately, based in the area that we're born in, we grew up with that philosophy inadvertently, and it's just like we just sort of gradually become that LA mentality, East LA mentality, gang mentality. And it's sad, but that's the way it is.
Graffiti in itself, and I mean everything I've kind of done aside from graffiti, has always been like a rebellion, and it was always like that. Like, my teachers would try to like shame me and being like, you're just being a kid and you're just like acting out to get attention, or like, I was like, yeah, so what? Like, we were starving for some attention, but I think the biggest thing that me and my friends wanted was to bring about change, about the way that shit was going on in our school and shit was going on in our lives, and we didn't want to fear for our lives or fear for our future, because that's what it felt like. It felt like we were just instilled fear. Like, you don't do your homework or you don't get a good grade, you're not going anywhere in life. Like, fuck you. I know exactly where I want to go. I'm just going about it my own way. And then also instilled fear in that, like, if you don't join us, like our gang, or if you don't, abide by the gang rules, like, then you're cut off. And I'm like, fuck you. I'm gonna do what I want. Like, I don't give a shit,
We go through this identity crisis. And then we try to dab into a lot of things, and we try to fit in where we can. It's like, do you want to be a gangbanger? So you try to become a gangbanger. And sometimes you just sort of, like muscles, you kind of sort of develop into that, and then, you develop that strength, and then that's what you become. But a lot of times it's like you're trying to find a common ground, you're trying to be accepted to a certain extent. And yeah, for a lot of times, the common ground is that spray can. That spray can is what unifies many of us. It's like we have a crew of, like, let's say 60 members. This is just an example. All of those members, even though this person is an enemy of this person in gang culture, when we come to this center, this circle, we leave all that behind. And that can only be accomplished through the graffiti art movement. And that's what's beautiful about graffiti art.
So a lot of people take graffiti as, associated with their gangs or territory. And then there's people like me who strictly do it for art. And, that kind of clashes a lot of times. For instance, up in Denver, there were spots that I used to be able to paint, like freight trains, and they got taken over by a little bit more ghetto, graffiti crews. So, if you roll into their spots, you never know. You might get stabbed, you might get shot. One of my buddies, he got stabbed over graffiti, just a couple of years ago. And he's a friendly guy, too. So, one person could be doing it for territorial resources or whatever, and then one guy might just be doing it just because it's fun. But if you paint over somebody else's spot, you might get stabbed or shot. It's kind of simple as that.
According to authorities, especially the police force, they're in there just to, do their job. So if they see a kid writing on the wall, especially with spray paint, and if he looks a certain way, they're gonna stop him. But if you see a bunch of guys with cones and, a scissor lift, and they're painting on the wall with spray paint, you don't stop them. It's like, what's the difference, right? Well, the difference is that somebody has more money than the other one. There was an incident where a friend of mine was painting at a yard, and he had permission from that actual building, and it was active. In other words, there was people in that building. So when PD came over and stopped him, he said, "I'm just painting." And I'm like, "Well, do you have permission?" He says, "Yeah, I have permission from the owners. We'll bring him out." So they stepped him to the side and did the whole routine, frisk and everything, handcuffed him, took him in because he was doing vandalism. And according to his record, he shouldn't have this and that, so it's now probation. But in reality, that's his livelihood. So how can you stop somebody, from doing your livelihood, whether it's free or getting paid for? It's up to that individual that's wearing the badge. And unfortunately, he got the raw end of the deal.
The graffiti artists, are they in danger of being shot from a police officer just because they're running from that criminal mischief that pose no threat? So that's a whole other conversation within the community as well. It's just what's your intention, And I think as of late, I've been trying to give to the community as opposed to get pissed off and go out and write my name huge everywhere, which is an element to this art form, and sometimes we have our bad days, who knows, but it's not a violent crime at the end of the day. It's changing the thickness of a wall. But it can be easily changed back.
A lot of vandals out there do deserve to get arrested because they do stupid shit. Tagging up somebody's house or a church or a school or something like that, it's not really cool. But on, some ugly alleyway, whatever, doing a tag, I don't think you should go to jail for it. It just doesn't seem appropriate. There should be some other alternative way to deal with it. And a lot of these police officers will, if they catch you, they will take you in the alley and beat the shit out of you. And that almost happened to me once, but I narrowly avoided it. And also in places that have like high amount of graffiti, instead of spending $7 billion on covering up graffiti, you should invest some kind of money into the community to cover it up with something else, instead of just, whitewashing it. And I think that's something that's good for the community, and it would save a lot of money, and, maybe change the views that people have about street art.
A lot of gangs and a lot of, graffiti artists, me, myself, I used it as a tool to, kind of scare off people from moving into my side of town, Kind of being like, fuck you, this is a shitty neighborhood and, you don't belong here. And it's funny to, see that, those methods used by, gang members or graffiti writers to, kind of be like, this is our area, is now kind of, appealing. And it's more instead of it deterring people, it invites them to be like, oh my God, there's paint on the wall here, I need to live here, And we're just like, fuck, what do we do now? I was like, fuck, it's scary because there's a lot of gentrification because of it now. It's not only just a market, it fuels other markets, the real estate market, it fuels companies, it's crazy to see it change in that direction, Like I said, they made a market and a revenue out of something that we loved, that we had fucking diehard passion for, shit that we would die or go to jail for. And somehow it's like appealing, which I don't know. I don't know how to feel about that yet, you know, and that's something that I still struggle with also, is how do I feel about it? Like, I know the market for that is liquidating because there's so many artists out there now that are trying to paint. Like, before it was a struggle to paint on a wall, and that's what made it kind of, like, that's what made it important. It was just like, holy shit, he got away with it. Or holy shit, like, you know, he painted on that wall, like, oh my God, it's in like the middle of like a busy street, like, holy shit, like, so great, so grand. Now, like, you just say, hey, can I paint your wall? And it's like, yeah, go for it, you know? So it's hard to keep up with that. Like, you know, it's hard to like kind of stand out in a place where like, there's an artist on every corner. It's not a bad thing, you know? It's not like, I'm not saying like, fuck, there's too many artists. I'm saying like, fuck, we need to be more aware of what the fuck we're doing to ourselves. We need to be more aware of what the fuck is going on around us.
I guess I'd say just don't generalize it, because I've met people who are total rednecks who are incredible at graffiti. I've met gangbangers who are incredibly good at graffiti. I've met people like me and you, or whoever's watching, who are really awesome at graffiti. And there's no really stereotype for it, other than the fact that everyone thinks it's a bunch of, you know, Hispanic kids or Puerto Rican kids running around with black hoodies and a backpack and a marker, because that's not really how it goes. You know, you can travel all around the world. You can meet people who climb mountains and, you know, do whatever, totally in tune with nature or whatever, and you drop them off in the city and they're out there tagging. So there's no actual generalization for it. So I don't know, I guess I'd say just not to judge the book by its cover, because graffiti is something that, you know, anyone can do.
Yeah, I think that if you're not an artist, you need to think about an art form that you can embrace and express yourself via. And not only that, but think about an artist that you're not currently maybe perhaps appreciating enough. Maybe it's your local restaurant, the chef there, or maybe it's the literary, you know, someone writing your favorite article in the newspaper. There's a lot of art going on, and I think there has to be more appreciation for art in order for us to catapult it into another space. I think we have to have more people in the conversation. Right now, it might be only so many people, but if we're like, hey, come on in the conversation, you know, everybody can be an artist. You know, and for a long time, I doubted myself. And for a long time, I looked at graffiti and I was like, oh, I'm too late in the game. I can't get into this. But I wasn't that late. I mean, I was like early 20s. What the hell? You know, just because I didn't start when I was 15. You know, everybody has a different mind. Everybody has a different evolutionary path consciously. So yeah, it's okay to try new things. So yeah, I'd say pick up a can, see if you're a graffiti artist yourself. No, just kidding. But you never know.
But when it comes to art, it's more of, I want to make you think. I want my art to withstand time. I want it so 10 years from now, you open the same thing as you did today, and you say, wow, it's the same thing. Or, I've never seen this before. So you can't compare it. I don't want to be compared. That's my whole goal, to never be kind of compared. But that's everybody. You either make it because you know somebody that knows somebody, or you made it because you did something innovative and nobody else does. The inventor of a new thing is what makes people copy that and keep on going and building on top of it.
For me, at least, it's trying to expose feeling and like truths and lies, and just, you know, trying to get people to be more aware of what they're looking at, you know, rather than just passing it by and being like, oh, you know, I stray from like huge museums or gallery shows because I go there and I look and I see people just kind of like glance and walk away with their drink and just talk. Go to the next piece, glance, walk away, take a drink, talk. And it's so boring. Like, it's just the most boringest thing I've ever seen in my life, and I just can't stand being bored. That's why I like add so much to my pieces. Is like, one, it's a sense of frustration and trying to get shit started, and two is just I want people to like stand there for a while and be like, try to puzzle it together, or if it's already together, which it never is, but try to like take something from it. Like try to, you know, just keep looking. Like you're gonna find something. Keep looking. Like it's deeper than what it looks like, you know. And it's, I don't know. I think people lack that now. People lack that like taking time because everything's so instant now. Everything's so fast. People lack the ability to take time. They lack that patience. They lack that being able to be aware of things. Like, yeah, you're aware of it globally because it's on your phone and you can look at it really quick and then put it away. But when you're looking at pieces like this, like art itself and a book or something, like you have to take time and like really digest it. And so that's for me is like one of the biggest messages, and like getting the point across is like, you know, just look at it longer, you know, don't just glance or just pass it by, or, you know, don't give it the credit that it's due, you know, and take from it truth or take from it lies, take from it whatever the fuck you want. I don't give a shit, but take from it.
We're all survivors. Most of the graffiti writers that I know, personal friends, they're all survivors. I mean, they survive whether it's running away from the cops, whether it's running away from a gangster or getting shot at and getting missed, or getting a divorce, or because all of graffiti doesn't matter. I mean, you're a survivor. You just get yourself up and keep on going.
You're leaving a mark behind, and that's proving your existence, and that's just basically what graffiti art, for me, or graffiti writing, for me, to a certain extent, is what it's about. Like, just like any other art movement, just like literature movement, you know, just like religious movements, they're all trying to prove their existence. They're all trying to prove we're here and we want to be heard.